I'm the high-maintenance Omega kept by Lucas Hayes, a top-tier alpha. I got pregnant. It was his. But just as I worked up the nerve to tell him, his phone rang. I heard his hushed voice from the balcony. Yeah. An accident. Can't keep it. Handle it cleanly. Don't let it affect the big picture. When Lucas came back from the call and saw how pale I was, he reached out to touch my forehead. What's wrong? You don't feel well? Looking at him, I suddenly laughed. Lucas, we're done. Staring at the 2 glaring red lines on the pregnancy test, I was floored. Holy crap. My brain just completely short-circuited. Lucas and I only ever did it once or twice a month, and he was always so careful. How did this even happen? Could it be what they say, that a top-tier alpha's genes are just that powerful? I paced back and forth in the bathroom, clutching the test, my mind a total mess. This baby couldn't have come at a worse time. Would Lucas even want it? What would he think? That it was an accidental product of his stand-in? Proof that sullied the memory of his one lost love? I couldn't bear to think about it. The more I thought, the more terrified I became, my hands and feet turning to ice. For the next few days, I was a walking zombie. At dinner, I stared at a table full of all the dishes I used to throw a fit to get, but I had no appetite at all. Mr. Peterson, our chef, looked at me with concern. Mr. Gavin, is the food not to your liking today? I shook my head, forcing a weak smile. No, it's not that. I'm just a little tired. That evening, Lucas came home, bringing a chill in with him from the long day. He'd been swamped lately with a huge project at his company, often not getting back until the middle of the night. He took off his suit jacket, loosened his tie, and walked over to me, habitually ruffling my hair. Why are you being so quiet today? His deep voice was laced with exhaustion. No drama? I buried my face in his chest, smelling the familiar scent of cedarwood, and my nose tingled. I almost burst into tears. I snuggled into his arms and mumbled, "Can you come to bed early tonight?" He paused for a second, then chuckled softly. Okay. That night, for once, he didn't go to his study. He just lay in bed with me. I rested my head on his arm, feeling the steady beat of his heart as my own thoughts churned like a stormy sea. I wanted to tell him, "Lucas, I'm carrying your baby, and whether you want it or not, you need to know." I finally mustered up my courage, but just as I was about to speak, his phone rang. It was his executive assistant, Mark. Lucas frowned but answered it anyway. He got up and walked out to the balcony, keeping his voice low, but I still caught a few scattered words. Yeah. An accident. Can't be kept. Handle it cleanly. Don't let it affect the big picture. My blood ran cold in an instant. An accident. Can't be kept. Handle it cleanly. Every word was a knife twisting in my heart. So he already knew. So he'd already made his decision. Of course. Why would he ever allow a replacement to have his child? I was trembling all over, my teeth chattering. When Lucas came back from the call and saw how pale I was, he reached out to touch my forehead. What's wrong? You don't feel well? I flinched, pulling away from his hand. His hand froze in midair, and his brow furrowed even deeper. Gavin, what kind of tantrum are you throwing now? I looked at him and suddenly laughed. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Lucas, we're done. Lucas's expression darkened instantly. His pheromones exploded from him with crushing pressure, like an invisible net wrapping tightly around me. The sheer force of a top alpha's presence made my omega instinct scream, my knees going weak. But I held my ground, glaring at him. What did you say? His voice was as cold as ice. Say it again. I said, we're done. I enunciated each word, using every ounce of strength I had. I don't want to be your little kept boy anymore. I'm sick of it. Sick of it? He scoffed as if I told the world's funniest joke, closing the distance between us. Gavin, have you forgotten that your debt isn't paid off yet? I'll pay it back. I grabbed a card I'd already prepared from the nightstand. There's $500,000 in here. I'll pay you back the rest over time. I just don't want to be here anymore. This was the $500,000 I had tricked him out of over the past 3 years with all my drama and demands. $500,000? He sneered. Gavin, are you trying to pay off a beggar? The hole I dug your family out of was more than 10 times that amount. Pain shot through my heart. Right? How could I forget? In his eyes, I was just something that could be bought and sold. 3 years ago, my family went bankrupt. My dad, buried in debt, jumped off a building, leaving me, a newly presented, helpless Omega, to face the wolves alone. It was Lucas who pulled me out of the hands of those ravenous creditors. He gripped my chin, his eyes colder than his pheromones. Stay with me, and I'll pay off your debts. All you have to do is be good and stay by my side. I had nowhere else to go, so I could only nod. I assumed he was after my body. After all, I was good-looking, and my pheromones were considered top-tier among Omegas. But on our first night together, he just held me. He didn't do anything else. His pheromones enveloped me, giving me a sense of security I'd never felt before, but I could feel his body was tense, restrained. It was only later that I found out he had a lost love in his heart. A lost love who was already dead. And I was just a stand-in who happened to look about 70 or 80% like him. The day I learned the truth, I didn't cry or throw a fit. What good would that do? Would it bring my dad back to life? Would it revive my family's company? No. I just quietly buried that little spark of affection I shouldn't have felt and started playing the part of a proper-kept boy. The drama, the tantrums, it was all an act. Because I knew that Lucas needed a problem. A distraction that would let him temporarily forget the past. Something that would make him feel alive. It seemed the more trouble I caused, the more he needed me. Until I found out I was pregnant. Then what do you want? I asked, my eyes red. What do I want? He grabbed my chin, his cold cedarwood scent nearly drowning me. I want you to behave and stop getting these stupid ideas in your head. Not unless I'm dead. I don't know where I found the courage, but I shoved him away. Lucas, I've had enough. I don't want to look at your dead inside face anymore. I don't want to be someone else's replacement. The word replacement instantly ignited Lucas's fury. His eyes turned scarlet as he threw me onto the bed, his pheromones crashing over me like a tsunami. Say that again. The intense alpha pheromones made a wave of nausea hit me hard. I clapped a hand over my mouth and started to dry heave. Lucas froze. He stared at me, a flicker of shock and panic in his eyes. You? Seizing his moment of distraction, I kicked him away with all my might, scrambling into the bathroom and locking the door. I collapsed over the toilet, retching my guts out. My stomach was in knots, and so was my heart. I could hear Lucas pounding furiously on the door. Gavin, open the door. You're going to explain this to me. Gavin. I covered my ears and shrank into the cold corner, tears streaming down my face. Goodbye, Lucas. And goodbye, baby. I'm sorry, but I can't let you be born. To a father who doesn't want you. We're leaving. After 3 years with Lucas, I knew his habits and his security system like the back of my hand. I knew that every Wednesday afternoon, he had a high-level executive meeting at the main office. It was set in stone. It was the one time he didn't bring his bodyguards, the time when security was at its most lax. I knew the combination to his study safe. It was his lost love's birthday. I contacted my only friend, a beta named Chris. He was a computer whiz who used to run in hacker circles. I told him my plan. Chris was silent on the other end of the line for a long time. Gavin, are you sure you want to do this? Lucas Hayes is not someone you want to mess with. I'm sure, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. Chris, are you going to help me or not? I'll help. Chris sighed. Text me the address. I'll take care of the surveillance cameras and your new ID. Do you have enough money? I have enough. I hung up and looked at my pale face in the mirror. Gavin, from this day on, you're not anyone's kept boy. You're your own master. And your baby's hero. That Wednesday, I was exceptionally dramatic. I kicked Lucas out of bed first thing in the morning, complaining that his pheromones were too strong and making me sick. Lucas's face was dark, but he endured it and went to the guest room. At breakfast, I complained the milk was too hot and deliberately spilled it on the floor. Lucas's patience was wearing thin, a vein throbbing at his temple. Gavin, you'd better have an explanation for this behavior today. I crossed my legs and smirked at him. An explanation? I just can't stand the sight of you. Is that a problem? He stared at me, like a lion that had been provoked. Just when I thought he was about to explode, he took a deep breath and stood up. I have a meeting this afternoon. You need to cool off. And then he left. I watched his back as he walked away, a hollow feeling in my chest. But there was no time for self-pity. I immediately rushed into his study and opened the safe. Inside, besides documents, was a stack of cash and a few untraceable bank cards. I only took the cash, about 10,000. I didn't dare touch the cards. Lucas would definitely be able to track them. Then, I went back to the bedroom and pulled a pre-packed backpack from the very back of the closet. It only contained a few changes of clothes and all my savings. I changed into a plain t-shirt and jeans, put on a hat and a mask, and took one last look at the cage I had lived in for 3 years. Goodbye, Lucas. I hope we never meet again. Following the route Chris gave me, I perfectly avoided all the surveillance cameras. From the penthouse suite to the underground garage, and then to a hole in the fence at the back of the complex. Yes, a hole in the fence. As I crawled out of the opening, which was just big enough for one person, I couldn't help but laugh. Who would have thought that a top alpha's prized Omega would regain his freedom this way? Chris's car was already waiting for me outside. The moment I got in, he handed me a new phone and a new ID. New identity. You're Gavin Smith. I found a small city down south. It's beautiful, quiet. No one will find you there. Thank you, I said, looking at him sincerely. Chris started the car and sighed. You, my friend, are a real handful. What was the point of all this? Wasn't being his pampered Omega good enough? Did you really have to pull this whole pregnant and on the run stunt? I didn't say anything, just gently touched my still flat stomach. What was the point? The point was for my child to grow up in a loving environment. The point was so he wouldn't be called the replacement's bastard child. The car headed south. I watched the city I had lived in for 3 years shrink into a tiny dot in the rearview mirror. It would be a lie to say I wasn't sad. After all, he was someone I had actually started to fall for. But any feelings I had were crushed by those 2 words. Handle it. 2 days later, we arrived in the small city Chris had mentioned. Clearwater. It was a beautiful name. This place was a world away from my old life. There were no skyscrapers, no luxury boutiques, no streets thick with the smell of pheromones. The air was filled with the fragrance of grass and earth. Chris helped me rent a small house with a yard. It wasn't big, but it was clean. There was even a grapevine in the yard. This is as far as I go, Chris said after helping me with my luggage. If you need anything, use the new phone. Don't use any of your old contacts. Lucas has eyes and ears everywhere. I know. I nodded. You be careful, too. Chris left. The little house was quiet, with just me, and the baby in my belly. I touched my stomach and whispered, Baby, we're home. A new life was beginning. Life in Clearwater was peaceful and poor. The money I'd brought wasn't much, and with the morning sickness hitting me hard in the first trimester, there was no way I could get a job. I was constantly nauseous, throwing up everything I ate. Back at Lucas's, if I so much as sneezed, a private doctor would be on call 24/7. Now I had to tough it out on my own. One time I was so weak from vomiting that I passed out in the kitchen. When I came to, I was in bed, and a man in a white coat was sitting beside me. He saw I was awake, pushed up his glasses, and said gently, You're awake. Your neighbor found you unconscious and called me. My name is Dr. Evans. I'm the community doctor. I learned that my next-door neighbor, a kind older man named Mr. Henderson, had come by to give me some vegetables from his garden and found me. He immediately called Dr. Evans from the local clinic. Dr. Evans was a beta. He was just as his name suggested, gentle and kind. He gave me a quick checkup, then frowned. You're pregnant and severely malnourished. This isn't good for you or the baby. You're an Omega, all alone out here? Where's your alpha? I looked down and mumbled, I don't have an alpha. Dr. Evans paused, then seemed to understand, his eyes filling with a hint of sympathy. I'm sorry, but this is a critical time for you. You have to focus on your nutrition. I'll prescribe some vitamins. Make sure you take them. If you feel unwell at any time, don't hesitate to come find me. After that, Dr. Evans started coming by often. Sometimes he'd bring a nutritious meal he'd made himself. Other times, he'd give me a simple prenatal checkup. He became my only support system here. I knew that a single pregnant Omega stood out in a town like this. My neighbors always looked at me with a mix of curiosity and speculation. But I couldn't afford to care. All my energy was focused on staying healthy for the baby. I started learning to cook for myself, to haggle at the farmer's market, to mend my own clothes. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I would touch my growing belly and think about Lucas. I wondered what he was doing now. Had he already forgotten about me? Or was he still looking for me? The thought would flash through my mind before I'd extinguish it. What would he be looking for me for? To drag me back and force an abortion? I couldn't stand the thought. Turned out I was far too naive. I thought I had hidden myself well, but Lucas's reach was far greater than I could have ever imagined. One day, I was sitting in the yard, enjoying the sun, when Dr. Evans came by with some chicken soup. We were chatting when the yard gate was suddenly kicked open. Several alphas in black suits rushed in. Leading them was Lucas's assistant, Mark. The moment I saw him, my blood froze. They'd found me. Dr. Evans immediately stood in front of me, watching them warily. Who are you people? What do you want? Mark didn't even glance at him, his gaze fixed squarely on me. Mr. Gavin, Mr. Hayes has requested your return. His tone was cold and professional. I held my belly and slowly stood up, looking at him with cold eyes. I'm not going back. Mark's brow furrowed. Mr. Gavin, please don't make this difficult for us. Difficult? I laughed. You storm into my home, and you're saying I'm making things difficult? And who are you to take him away? Dr. Evans, now angry, stood his ground in front of me. Mark's gaze finally fell on Dr. Evans, tinged with disdain. Then, his eyes landed on the bowl of chicken soup in Dr. Evans's hands, and then at my obviously pregnant belly. His expression changed in an instant. He took out his phone, as if to call someone. My heart dropped. It was over. Sure enough, a few seconds later, Mark handed the phone to me. It's Mr. Hayes. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello? The other end of the line was dead silent. After what felt like an eternity, Lucas's voice came through, thick with suppressed rage. Gavin. Just my name was enough to send a chill down my spine. You've grown bold. Not only did you run, but you dared to find yourself some other guy out there? Was trembling with anger. Some other guy? Was he talking about Dr. Evans? Lucas, you bastard. I'm the bastard? He let out a cold laugh, his voice laced with ice. Gavin, I'm giving you half an hour to get your ass back here. Otherwise, I can't guarantee your little boyfriend will live to see tomorrow. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. The line went dead. I stood there, holding the phone, shaking with fury. Mark looked at me, his face devoid of expression. Mr. Gavin, the car is waiting. I looked at Dr. Evans, who was standing in front of me with a worried expression. Then I looked down at my belly. I couldn't drag him into this. I closed my eyes and nodded. Fine. I'll go with you. I was taken away. Just like 3 years ago, I was forced into a black luxury car. The only difference was that 3 years ago, I had nothing. Now I had my baby. The car sped through the streets, finally stopping at the most exclusive private hospital in the city. I was taken directly to the obstetrics department. He really was going to get rid of my child. I started struggling like a madman. I'm not going in. Let me go. Lucas, you murderer. Mark and the other alphas were too strong. I couldn't break free. Just as I was sinking into despair, a set of urgent footsteps echoed from the end of the hallway. It was Lucas. He was thinner and more haggard than when I had left. There was a bluish stubble on his chin, and the scent of cedar on him was mixed with the heavy smell of smoke and alcohol. His eyes were bloodshot as he walked toward me, step by step. He looked like he wanted to devour me whole. Gavin. He gritted his teeth, forcing my name out. Looking at him, I was suddenly no longer afraid. I straightened my back, shielded my stomach, and stared at him coldly. Lucas, if you dare touch my child, I'll haunt you for the rest of your life. He seemed not to hear me, his gaze fixed on my stomach. That look terrified me. He reached out as if to touch it. I flinched away. His hand froze in midair, and his face grew even darker. Whose is it? He asked, his voice raw. I was stunned. He was asking me whose baby it was? I almost laughed in his face. Whose business is it of yours? I provoked him deliberately. It's not yours, anyway. The moment the words left my mouth, the air around us dropped to freezing. Lucas's pheromones spiraled out of control. A violent storm of cedarwood sent sweeping through the entire corridor. Mark and the other alphas paled, staggering back a few steps. The crushing pheromones made it hard to breathe, and my legs gave out, nearly sending me to my knees. Lucas grabbed my wrist, his grip so tight I thought he would shatter the bone. Say that again. I said, the baby isn't yours. I had it with someone else. Are you satisfied? Good. Lucas suddenly smiled. It was a smile uglier than a grimace. Very good. He yanked me violently, dragging me toward the operating room. Since it's a bastard, there's no reason to keep it. I was pushed into the operating room. The cold lights shone down on my face, so bright I couldn't open my eyes. Doctors and nurses bustled around me, preparing surgical instruments. I could hear the cold clink of metal on metal, the sound of them preparing to kill my child. My heart sank, piece by piece. I was finished. My baby was finished. Tears slid from the corners of my eyes, soaking the pillow. I gave up struggling, lying there like a marionette. Just as a doctor approached me with a cold instrument, the operating room doors burst open. Lucas rushed in. He shoved the doctor aside and lunged toward my bed like a madman. Don't touch him. He roared at the doctors and nurses, his eyes so red they looked like they were about to bleed. Everyone was terrified. He turned to me, his eyes filled with a desperate, agonizing madness I didn't understand. Gavin, he grabbed my hand, his voice trembling uncontrollably. The baby? It's mine. Isn't it? I froze. How could he? You were lying to me, weren't you? He pressed my hand to his face. His cheek was burning hot and wet with tears. Tell me, the baby is mine. Looking at his near-total breakdown, I felt a complex wave of emotions. Didn't he want to get rid of the baby? Didn't he say it was an accident that couldn't be kept? What the hell was going on? Let me go first. Lucas seemed not to hear me, just repeating over and over, tell me the baby is mine, so what if it's yours? I finally snapped, shouting at him. Are you going to keep it just because it's yours? Didn't you say you had to handle it cleanly so it wouldn't affect the big picture? Lucas jolted as if struck by lightning. He stared at me blankly, his lips moving as if he wanted to say something. You heard? I heard. I heard everything. Lucas, you're a liar. You go on about loving your lost love while using me as a replacement. And now that I'm pregnant with your child, you want to get rid of him. What gives you the right? My words were like daggers, stabbing deep into Lucas's heart. His face turned deathly white. No, he mumbled to himself. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He looked at me, his lips parted, but he couldn't get a single word out. The pain and regret in his eyes were about to overflow. Mr. Hayes. Mark rushed in breathlessly. We found it. That call you had me look into. It was about the hostile takeover attempt on the North American division. The other party was playing dirty, which is why you said to handle it cleanly and not let it affect the big picture. Mark's voice trailed off. He saw that Lucas was completely frozen, like a statue. The entire operating room fell into a dead silence. I stared at Lucas, and he stared back at me. So, I had it all wrong? That phone call. He wasn't talking about our baby, but a business deal? The realization hit me like a bolt of lightning, leaving me completely stunned. I'd been on the run for so long, terrified for so long, and it was all just a huge misunderstanding? I looked at Lucas's ashen face. I suddenly found it all so laughable. Truly, ridiculously laughable. I started to laugh, and as I laughed, tears streamed down my face. I was discharged from the hospital. Lucas didn't force me to do anything, but he assigned more people to watch me 24/7. I was locked back in that penthouse apartment, a true trophy husband in a gilded cage. Only this time, the cage was even more secure, and Lucas had changed. He was no longer that aloof, imperious alpha. He became careful, tentative. He canceled all his social engagements and came home on time every day. He tried to learn how to cook for me and nearly burned down the kitchen. He tried to give me massages, but he was so clumsy that it just hurt. He held me every night as we slept, slowly transferring his pheromones to me, soothing my frayed nerves. But I didn't want to say a single word to him. Did I hate him? Not really. After all, it was a misunderstanding. But I couldn't forgive him. I couldn't forgive him for using me as a replacement, and I couldn't forgive his past distrust and the pain he'd caused. More importantly, I didn't know how to face him. Our relationship had been wrong from the start. Now, because of a child, it had become even more complicated and twisted. Did he feel guilt toward me? Or was there really a little bit of love? I didn't dare ask, and I didn't want to know. I started to act out even more. I dumped the meals he spent hours preparing, saying they tasted like pig slop. Threw the keys to his brand new limited edition sports car into the toilet, complaining the color was ugly. I tore the only picture he had of his lost love, his most cherished possession, into tiny pieces. I thought he would get angry, that he would use his pheromones to pin me down or cut me with his cold words, just like before. But he didn't. He just quietly threw away the food and started over. Quietly fished the keys out of the toilet and wiped them clean. And quietly, piece by piece, picked up the shattered photograph, his eyes red. Seeing him like that, I felt no sense of victory or revenge. I knew I had hurt him, and I had hurt myself too. That night, he drank a lot. He held me, burying his head in the crook of my neck, his hot tears falling onto my skin. "Gavin," he sobbed, repeating my name over and over. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't leave me again. Please." Such a proud, top-tier alpha was begging me. My heart was a complete and utter mess. My belly grew bigger by the day. The symptoms of the third trimester became more severe. I started having insomnia, and my legs swelled up painfully. Lucas was more nervous than I was. He hired the best nutritionists and obstetricians, came up with new, delicious things for me to eat every day, and gave me massages. When I couldn't sleep at night, he would hold me, tell me stories, and sing off-key lullabies. Sometimes I'd wake up with a leg cramp, crying out in pain. He would immediately jump out of bed to rub my leg, his forehead beaded with sweat. Watching him, flustered and anxious, the ice around my heart began to thaw, just a little. He wasn't so bad. At least he was genuinely devoted to the baby. On my due date, I was rushed to the hospital. I chose a natural birth. Pain. It was a searing, tearing pain. I felt like I was going to die. Lucas stayed by my side the entire time, holding my hand. His hand was trembling more than mine, his face even paler. Lost in a haze of pain, I clawed and bit at his hand. He didn't make a sound, just kept kissing my forehead, his voice hoarse as he encouraged me. "Gavin, just a little more. The baby's almost here. Gavin, I love you." I don't know if the pain was making me hallucinate. I thought I heard him say, he loved me. When I came to my senses again, the room was filled with the loud cries of a baby. It was a boy. He looked just like Lucas. The nurse brought him over to me. Looking at that little wrinkled thing, my heart melted completely. This was my baby. I turned my head, looking for Lucas, only to see him collapse, falling straight to the floor. "Mr. Hayes, doctor, quick, he's fainted." The delivery room instantly descended into chaos. "Are you kidding me? I'm the one giving birth and you, a top alpha, are the one who faints? How embarrassing." Lucas had fainted due to a pheromone imbalance combined with extreme mental stress. The first thing he did when he woke up was rush to the nursery to see our son. He stood there, separated, by the glass, just staring at the tiny infant for a whole afternoon. The look in his eyes was so tender it could have melted steel. Lying in my hospital bed, I watched his foolish expression and couldn't help but smile. He named our son Nathan. Nathan, Nathan. To remember. It was obvious who he was remembering. That little bit of warmth in my heart was doused with a bucket of cold water. So I had been fooling myself. He was only being good to me because I had given him a son. A son who could serve as a vessel for his memories of his lost love. After I was discharged, my career as a drama queen reached a whole new level. I complained that Nathan was too noisy and wouldn't let him in the bedroom. So Lucas set up a small cot in the nursery next door and took care of the baby himself. When Nathan cried in the middle of the night, he'd clumsily get up to mix formula and change diapers. The man who ran a business empire was now researching which brand of diapers was the most absorbent. Seeing the dark circles under his eyes deepen, I wasn't entirely unmoved. But every time I thought of the name Nathan, it felt like I'd swallowed a fly. My temper got worse and worse during my postpartum recovery. One day, we got into a huge fight over something trivial. I said every hateful thing I could think of. "Lucas, don't think I'll be grateful just because you're doing all this. I'm telling you, I will never forgive you. You think I don't know what you're really up to?" Nathan? You just want to look at him and see your dead lover, don't you? Well, I'm telling you, no way. He's my son, and he has nothing to do with you. After I finished, he just stood there watching me quietly. His eyes were filled with endless sadness and disappointment. He didn't say anything. He just turned and left. That night, he didn't come home. I lay alone in the huge, empty bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. My heart felt hollow and panicked. Had I gone too far? The next day, Mark came. He handed me a document. It was a stock transfer agreement. Lucas was transferring 20% of his personal shares to Nathan. Mr. Hayes said he knows he wronged you in the past. This is compensation for you and the young master. He also said that if you still don't want to see him, he can move out. The company has a new project in Europe. He might be gone for a long time. My heart sank. He's leaving? For a long time? Was he giving up on us? I held the document, my hands trembling. No, couldn't let him go. I grabbed Nathan and rushed to the airport. Lucas's private jet was about to take off. I found him in the VIP lounge. He was dressed in a sharp suit, looking once again like the cool and sophisticated Mr. Hayes. But he was thinner, and his complexion was terrible. He froze when he saw me. What are you doing here? I didn't say a word. I just handed Nathan to him. As if he knew we were about to be separated, Nathan's little mouth puckered, on the verge of tears. Lucas clumsily took him, his movements practiced as he soothed him. Sure, Nathan, it's okay. Don't cry. I looked at him, my eyes welling up. Lucas. Yeah. Nathan's name. What does it mean? He paused in his comforting, then looked up at me. It means to never forget. Never forget who? Pressed. He looked at me for a long time before saying, word by word, never forget, Gavin. My tears instantly fell. So, was that it? The lost love I'd imagined. The replacement I thought I was. The vessel for his memories. Was it all just in my head? Then, what about your lost love? I asked through my sobs. There is no lost love. From the very beginning, it has only ever been you. Then 3 years ago. Why did you? 3 years ago I was an idiot, he said. Back then, I didn't dare admit that I liked you. I was afraid you were only after my money, that our relationship was just a transaction. So I made up a lost love to deceive you, and to deceive myself. I thought that if there were no feelings between us, you wouldn't leave me. I never imagined how wrong I could be. He took a step closer, holding our child so carefully, as if afraid he would startle me. Gavin, I know it's too late for me to say anything now. I hurt you too deeply. But, will you give me one more chance? Please? Let me stay with you and Nathan. Let me take care of you. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. He looked at me, his eyes filled with pleading and love. I looked at him and then at the child we shared in his arms. What else could I say? I cried and threw myself into his arms. Lucas, you big idiot. In the end, Lucas didn't leave. We went home together with Nathan. To a real home. After the misunderstandings were cleared up, I discovered that Lucas was actually incredibly innocent when it came to love. He said it was love at first sight. 3 years ago, at the party after my family's bankruptcy, he saw me right away. He said I was huddled in a corner, scared to death but pretending to be fierce, like a cat with its fur on end. He thought it was incredibly cute. That's why he stepped in to help me. As for the so-called lost love, it was a complete fabrication. I had been dramatic and thrown tantrums for 3 years, all because of my own overactive imagination. Man, I was so embarrassed I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Lucas held me, laughing uncontrollably. It's okay, he kissed my forehead. You're cuter when you're being dramatic. Fine. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You win. But even though the misunderstanding was resolved, I couldn't just drop my drama queen persona. That would be way too embarrassing. So, our daily life became something like this. Lucas, I don't want bird's nest soup for breakfast today. I want the soy milk and fried dough sticks from that new place downstairs. Okay. Half an hour later, the CEO himself returned from waiting in line with soy milk and fried dough sticks. Lucas, Nathan's diapers are terrible. I want the ones from that brand in the Netherlands. Now. Immediately. Okay. An hour later, A private jet took off from the Netherlands, loaded with diapers. Lucas, you looked at that male assistant for 1 second too long today. Do you not love me anymore? Lucas scooped me up, threw me onto the bed, and proceeded to show me, with actions, exactly how much he loved me. The next day, I crawled out of bed, sore all over, and glared at the refreshed-looking man beside me. A miscalculation. I'd forgotten this guy was a top-tier alpha with terrifying stamina. My little body was no match for him. Nathan grew bigger by the day. He perfectly inherited Lucas's genes. A handsome little guy from a young age, with the same cedarwood pheromones as his dad. But his personality, he got that from me. An absolute little drama king. At 2, he would only eat if I fed him. If Lucas tried to feed him, he'd purse his lips, turn his head, and refuse. Want mommy, he'd lisp. Mommy, in this case, referred to me. Lucas would watch our mother-son bonding with a dark face, practically radiating jealousy. At 3, he started preschool. He got into a fight with another kid over a toy and made him cry. The teacher called the parents. Before I could even get there, he had already called Lucas. Daddy. He tattled in his little kid voice. Someone's bullying mommy's treasure. Half an hour later, Lucas's helicopter landed on the preschool's playground. All the teachers and children were stunned. Lucas stepped out of the helicopter, walked over to Nathan, and picked him up. Who bullied you? Nathan's little hand shot out, pointing at the boy he'd made cry. Him. He tried to take my action figure. Lucas glanced at the 6-figure limited edition collectible, then at the bawling little boy, and said without expression, Mark, go buy out the entire collection of this series. Then, holding Nathan, he reached a hand out to me. Let's go. We're going home. We don't play with them anymore. Looking at the pale faces of the little boy and his parents, I silently covered my own. Lucas, is this really how you should be raising a child? Are we creating a drama king too? 0. I thought life would just go on like this. A mix of chaotic antics and sweet moments. Until the day Lucas's ex showed up at our door. Yes, you read that right. An ex. An Omega named Silas. He was beautiful in a cool, aloof way, with crisp, mint-scented pheromones. He said he was Lucas's college classmate and also Lucas's first love. I was dumbfounded. Didn't Lucas say there was no lost love? Where did this first love come from? Silas looked at me, a hint of smug superiority in his eyes. So you're Gavin? He chuckled lightly. I've heard about you. The little pet Jules keeps on the side. Little pet? And you are? I crossed my arms, raising an eyebrow at him. I'm Silas. The only partner Jules has ever officially acknowledged. He said he and Lucas had been together in college. Then his family had some trouble and he had to go abroad. He and Lucas had promised that he would come back as soon as he sorted out his family's affairs. I came back this time to start over with Jules. I know you had a child for him, but that's fine. I can raise him as my own. All you have to do is leave Jules. I looked at his I'm the lady of the house attitude and laughed out loud. Sir, have you gotten something wrong? The person by Lucas's side right now is me. The person who had his child is also me. Your ancient history. Where do you get the nerve to tell me to leave? Silas's face changed. You're just a replacement. Jules doesn't love you at all. He told me he can't stand your kind of cloyingly sweet pheromones. My heart dropped. Cloyingly sweet pheromones. The kind he hated. It was true that Lucas had never once commented on my pheromones. Every time we were intimate, he seemed to be holding something back. No, that's not right. Lucas already explained everything. I can't let myself be tricked again. I straightened my back and looked at him coldly. Is that so? Then why don't you go ask Lucas himself who he really loves? I managed to send Silas away. But a thorn of doubt had been planted in my heart. When Lucas came home that night, I casually asked him if he had dated anyone in college. He paused in massaging my legs. Why are you suddenly asking about that? No reason, just curious, I said, pretending to be nonchalant. He was quiet for a moment before saying, there was one. My heart sank to the bottom of my stomach. Named Silas? He jerked his head up to look at me, his brows knitted tightly together. He came to see you? Yeah. I nodded. He said he was your first love, the only partner you ever acknowledged. Lucas's expression turned ugly. Gavin, listen to me, he grabbed my hand. That was over a long time ago. Was it? I shook his hand off and sneered. Then how come he said you can't stand sweet-smelling pheromones? Lucas froze. He looked at me, opened his mouth, but didn't know how to explain. Seeing his reaction, what else was there to understand? So, his "it's only ever been you" was a lie. So, I really was just a pathetic replacement. Because my sweet, peach-scented pheromones and my face both bore a resemblance to that Silas. No, wait, not just a resemblance. I suddenly remembered that when I first presented as an Omega, my pheromones were unstable, and I had to have an induction surgery. The doctor who performed the surgery, I think he was part of Silas's family. A horrifying thought took shape in my mind. My pheromones, my face, had they been artificially molded to look like Silas? And the person behind it all? I looked at Lucas in disbelief. It was you, wasn't it? My voice trembled. You planned this from the very beginning. You found someone to make me look like him. Then you kept me here to satisfy your pathetic possessiveness. No, Lucas panicked. He tried to hold me, but I shoved him away. Gavin, believe me, I didn't. Then how do you explain my face and my pheromones? I demanded, my eyes red. Are you daring to tell me this is all just a coincidence? Lucas was at a loss for words. The pain and helplessness in his eyes no longer moved me. My heart had turned to ice. Lucas, let's get a divorce. This time I was serious. I found the best lawyer and had a divorce agreement drawn up. I didn't want anything. I just wanted custody of Nathan. Lucas refused. He tore up all the documents, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at me. I won't agree. Gavin, I'll die before I agree to this. It's not up to you, I said coldly. Lucas, you make me sick. The word sick was like a knife, gutting him completely. He staggered back a step, his face as white as a sheet. We began a long, drawn-out battle. He refused to divorce, so I took Nathan and moved out. He used every method possible to find us, and I took Nathan and ran, hiding wherever I could. During that time, we were both like madmen. He was frantically searching for me, and I was frantically hiding from him. We were both being tortured in this silent war, leaving us both scarred and broken. Until one day, Chris found me. He brought a piece of news that left me reeling. Gavin, do you remember the induction surgery you had when you presented? I remember. I found something. There was something wrong with that surgery. Chris told me that the doctor from the Sue family who performed my surgery had added something extra to my induction treatment. It was a substance that would make my body develop a strong dependency on Lucas. At the same time, it would slowly eat away at my body. To put it simply, Chris's face was grim. It's a slow-acting poison. Without the constant soothing of Lucas's pheromones, your body will quickly break down. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. The Sue family, why would they do that? Because of Silas. He knew from early on that Lucas was interested in you. He couldn't accept it, so he decided to destroy you. He thought that if you couldn't live without Lucas, Lucas would eventually grow tired of you and come back to him. He never expected you to get pregnant. The pregnancy accelerated the poison spread in your system. Your severe morning sickness, fainting. It was all because of this. And Lucas's pheromones are the only antidote. I listened to Chris, my mind a complete blank. So, the story between me and Lucas was more than just being a replacement. From the very beginning, I had been caught in a massive conspiracy. And Lucas, did he know? Does Lucas know about this? I asked. Chris shook his head. He probably doesn't. But Silas definitely does. I found out that Silas has recently been in contact with one of Lucas's rival companies. It looks like they're planning something against Lucas. Before he could finish, my phone rang. It was Mark. His voice was filled with a panic and terror I had never heard before. Mr. Gavin, it's terrible. Mr. Hayes, he's been in an accident. Lucas was in an accident. On his way to find me, his car was hit head-on by a large truck. The car was destroyed, the driver killed instantly. When I arrived at the hospital, what I saw was Lucas's body, covered by a white sheet. I couldn't even bring myself to lift it. I was afraid to see his mangled body. My world collapsed in that moment. I don't know how I walked out of the hospital. I wandered the streets like a ghost. My mind was filled with images of Lucas. The way he smiled, the way he got angry, the way he looked at me helplessly, the way he held me and begged me not to leave. He said, "Gavin, I love you." He said, "Gavin, we'll never be apart again." Liar. Lucas, you big liar. You promised you'd take care of me for the rest of my life. How could you leave first? A sharp pain suddenly shot through my body. It felt like all my organs were being torn apart. My vision went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital room. Chris was by my bedside, his eyes red. "Gavin, you're awake." I stared at the ceiling, my eyes empty. "Where's Lucas?" I asked. Chris was silent. "Is he really dead?" I asked, my voice terrifyingly calm. "Yes." My tears finally fell. Silent, but heart-wrenching. Chris told me Lucas's car crash wasn't an accident. It was the work of Silas and his rival company. They had bribed the truck driver to stage the accident. Their goal was to take over Hayes Corporation while Lucas was gone and the company was in chaos. "And they've been caught," Chris said. "Lucas, he was prepared. It seems he suspected Silas would come after you, and that they would make a move on the company. He had a contingency plan. As soon as the accident happened, his team immediately activated it. They not only saved the company but also took down Silas and his accomplices in one fell swoop. He had arranged everything, except for himself." I listened, my heart feeling like it was being sliced to ribbons. That fool. He protected everyone, but he forgot to protect himself. My body began to ache again. A dense, throbbing pain that seemed to come from inside my bones. I knew the poison in my body was taking over. Without Lucas's pheromones, I didn't have long. That was fine. This way I could go be with him. "Lucas, wait for me. I won't let you walk that road alone." I started making my final arrangements. I entrusted Nathan to Chris. I set up a trust fund with all the assets Lucas had left me, with Nathan as the sole beneficiary. I wrote my will. After doing all this, I felt as if all the strength had been drained from my body. I lay in bed, quietly waiting for death. I thought I would be calm. But when death actually arrived, when my breathing became more and more difficult, when my consciousness began to fade, I was still afraid. I didn't want to die. I wanted to watch my Nathan grow up. I wanted to see Lucas one more time. Just as my consciousness was about to fade completely, I thought I smelled a familiar, crisp cedarwood scent. So real, so warm. Was it Lucas? Had he come to get me? I forced my eyes open. In my blurry vision, a tall figure appeared. He was silhouetted against the light. I couldn't see his face, but that cedarwood scent that I adored. There was no mistaking it. "Lucas." I reached out, trying to grab him. The figure walked to my bedside and took my hand. His hand was warm, not like a dead person's. "Gavin," he said, his voice raspy and broken. "I'm back." I was stunned. That voice. My eyes shot open. The man's face slowly came into focus. The face I had longed to see day and night was right in front of me. He was much thinner, much more haggard, and there was a long scar running from his eyebrow to the corner of his mouth. But it was really him. Couldn't believe it. "It's me." He leaned down, kissed my forehead, and a tear fell onto my face.
"I'm sorry, Gavin."
"I'm sorry I'm late." I looked at him, my mind a jumble. But wasn't he dead? The car crash. It was fake, he said. It was a trap I set with the police. To lure Silas out. The person in the hospital was a body double. I was injured, and I've been secretly recovering. I only just finished dealing with everything today. I listened to him as if he were speaking in a foreign language. So, it was all fake? He wasn't dead? The realization made me laugh and cry at the same time. I bit down hard on his arm. Hiss, he sucked in a breath of pain but still held me tight, letting me vent. "Lucas, you bastard. You asshole. You scared me to death." I sobbed, pounding on his chest. Yes, I'm a bastard. I'm an asshole." He held me, kissing me over and over. As long as you're okay. As long as you're okay." His pheromones flowed into my body, endlessly. The pain inside me slowly began to fade. Finally, in his arms, I fell into a deep sleep. I slept for a long, long time. I had a very long dream. The dream was filled with all the little moments between me and Lucas. There were arguments, misunderstandings, and pain. But there was more sweetness, more warmth, more love. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was Lucas's handsome face. Up close. He was by my bedside, not having moved an inch. When he saw I was awake, his eyes lit up. "Gavin, you're awake. Are you uncomfortable anywhere?" I shook my head and reached out to gently touch the scar on his face. "Does it still hurt?" "It doesn't hurt anymore." He caught my hand and kissed it. "As long as you're by my side, nothing hurts." I looked at him, my eyes turning red again. "You idiot." "Yeah, I'm an idiot." He pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on my head. "An idiot who only loves you." Lucas later told me everything about Silas. He had been associated with Silas. But that was in college, before their pheromones had fully matured. They were just very good friends. They hadn't even held hands. After Silas went abroad, they lost contact. Silas's feelings for me were one-sided from the start. Lucas's voice was low, tinged with disgust. His family and mine had some business dealings, so we knew each other growing up. But I always saw him as a younger brother. In college, he confessed his feelings to me, and I rejected him. I made it very clear that we could never be together. He was devastated and went abroad. I thought that was the end of it. I never thought he would become so obsessed. Lucas squeezed my hand, his grip so tight it felt like it could crush my bones. "Gavin, I swear to God, I never considered him my first love. I admit, when I first saw you, your looks and pheromones did remind me of him, but it was just for a fleeting moment. I was drawn to you not because you were like someone else, but because you are you. The you at that party, scared to death but still baring your teeth at me. The you who was so fragile but protected yourself with a wall of thorns. As for your surgery," Lucas's eyes burned with a furious fire, making the scar on his face seem even more menacing. "I only found out about the tampering when I decided to come clean with you, when I wanted to build a real life with you. I started looking into your past because I wanted to know everything about you. That's when I uncovered what they did. The Sioux family, they deserve to die." Every word was coated in ice. Only then did I understand. He faked the car crash not just to lure out Silas and the rival company, but to get revenge for me. He used himself as bait, setting a trap to catch everyone who had ever hurt me. This man loved me to his very core. He would give his life for me. Couldn't hold back any longer. I threw my arms around his neck and sobbed uncontrollably. I cried out all the fear, the grief, and the longing from the past few days. He held me tightly, letting my tears soak his shirt, whispering in my ear over and over, "I'm sorry, Gavin. I'm sorry. I will never let you be scared again." Under the soothing comfort of Lucas's pheromones, my body healed day by day. The scar on Lucas's face slowly faded. Neither of us ever mentioned divorce again. The signed divorce agreement was locked by Lucas in the deepest part of his safe. He said it would never see the light of day again in this lifetime. Our life seemed to have returned to how it was before. No, it was even better. Lucas became even clingier than before. If I went to the bathroom, he would follow me to the door. If I took a shower, he would sit outside and wait. His excuse was that he was afraid I would fall. I rolled my eyes at him. "I'm dramatic, not disabled." He hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder, and mumbled, "I'm scared. Gavin, I'm really scared. I'm scared that if I blink, you'll disappear again." I understood the words he didn't say. My heart melted completely. I turned around and pinched his cheek. "I know, you big baby." Chris brought Nathan back. The moment the little guy came through the door, he toddled over to me on his short legs. "Mommy, Nathan missed you so much." I scooped him into my arms and gave him a big kiss. "Mommy missed you too." Lucas watched from the side, practically overflowing with jealousy. He reached out, wanting a hug too, but Nathan waved a little hand, pushed him away, and gave him a look of utter disdain. "Bad daddy, you're stealing my mommy." I watched him get shut down and burst out laughing. "Serves you right, Lucas Hayes." That night, for the first time, the three of us slept in the same bed. Nathan slept between us, one hand holding mine, the other holding Lucas's. His tiny body connected the three of us tightly. I looked at my sleeping son on the left and the man staring at me on the right. My heart was filled to the brim with something called happiness. After I was discharged, the first thing Lucas did was drag me to City Hall to get our marriage license. Staring at the two red booklets in my hand, I still felt a little dazed. I was married? Mrs. Hayes, Lucas hugged me from behind, whispering in my ear, What would you like for dinner tonight? I'll make it for you. I snapped out of it, cleared my throat, and my drama queen persona immediately took over. Who are you calling Mrs. Hayes? How tacky. Call me Gavin the Great. Yes, Gavin the Great. Lucas was ever compliant, a doting smile on his face. In that case, may I ask which chef Gavin the Great would like to grace with his presence tonight? I laughed at his teasing, turned around in his arms, and hooked my arms around his neck. I'll grace you, the most handsome chef, with my presence. Our wedding was set for a month later. Lucas said he wanted to give me the grandest wedding in the world. He wanted everyone to know that I, Gavin Kane, was his lawfully wedded partner, the treasure he cherished in the palm of his hand. I snorted and said, whatever, who cares? But my heart was bubbling with sweetness. On the eve of the wedding, Chris came to visit. He watched me order Lucas around, with Lucas looking perfectly happy to comply, and couldn't help but shake his head. Gavin, you really have him wrapped around your little finger. I raised an eyebrow smugly. Of course. Do you know who I am? By the way, Chris remembered something and pulled a file from his bag. Silas was sentenced. Life in prison. The smile on my face faded a little. I see. I had nothing to say about the person who had ruined half my life. He got the punishment he deserved. And I had gotten my new beginning. The weather on our wedding day was perfect. I wore a suit Lucas had designed for me, standing at one end of the aisle. At the other end, Lucas stood in a white suit, looking like a prince. He looked at me, and the light in his eyes was brighter than the sun. Our son, Nathan, dressed in a tiny suit and carrying the rings, walked toward us with serious, stubby steps. Halfway down, he seemed to be distracted by the flower petals on the ground, plopped down, and started playing with them. The whole room burst into laughter. Looking at my two clowns, big and small, I started laughing, and then tears came to my eyes. Lucas walked to me, took my hand, and wiped away my tears. Don't cry. Today is our big day. I sniffled and looked at him. Lucas, in the future, I might still be very dramatic and cause a lot of trouble. I know. You won't get tired of me, will you? He smiled. He bent down and placed a reverent kiss on my ring finger. It would be my honor, my king. During the vow portion of the ceremony, the officiant handed the microphone to Lucas. He looked at me, his deep eyes filled with an all-encompassing love. I used to think that love was possession, that it was building a magnificent cage to trap the one I loved, to make him mine and mine alone. I later learned that I was wrong. Love is giving, it is respect, it is wanting to give him the best of everything in the world. It is wanting to make him the happiest person on earth. Gavin, I once treated you like a caged bird, but now, I want to be your wings, to carry you to any place you want to go, to shelter you from the wind and the rain. Will you let me protect you for the rest of our lives? The crowd erupted in applause. I was sobbing, my makeup a mess. The officiant laughingly handed the microphone to me. I took it, looked at the man I loved so desperately, cleared my throat, and in the most dramatic voice I could muster, loudly declared, Mr. Hayes, congratulations. You've passed your probationary period. As of today, you're officially hired. From now on, you'd better keep up the good work. Otherwise, I might just have to consider replacing you. Lucas was stunned for a moment, then he burst out laughing. He walked over, swept me into his arms, and, in front of everyone, kissed me fiercely. As you command, my little majesty. After the wedding, we went to a beautiful little island for our honeymoon. Of course, we brought our little third wheel, Nathan, with us. On the beach at night, Lucas played the guitar and sang love songs to me. Nathan, in my arms, hummed along off-key to his dad's tune. The sea breeze blew gently, and the stars in the sky twinkled. I leaned against Lucas's shoulder, looking out at the distant horizon, my heart filled with peace. An ordinary, dramatic omega. Once, I was the most spoiled trophy husband of a top-tier alpha. Now, I am his one and only love, the mother of his son, the king he would give his life to protect. My life feels like a trashy romance novel. But thankfully, it has a happy ending.